Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Monday and welcome to Money Monday, where we're excited to share with you on today our current subject, which is learning about the market volatility and regulatory compliances for businesses. What does that mean to you? So today we're really going to have a great opportunity to talk about what is market volatility, and then how do you assess that against your business, your organization, your ministry, how you're operating, your assignment, what God has given you to do in the earth, because there are some key areas that we all need to consider as we operate, as we make decisions for this new year, as we look forward to advance, as we're going to bigger and better, as we're shifting, as we're leaping into our next. We want to make sure that we're doing the due diligence to be aware of what's coming ahead so that we can appropriately prepare. We're also going to be talking about compliance. What are some of those things, even in your business, that you need to be aware of so that you ensure that you're in sync with the rhythm, with the requirements, with the statutes, with the laws that have been mandated for your business so that you can retain your revenue, so that you can maintain stability, sustainability, and so that you can continue to advance even in your growth plan, right? We talked about your growth plan. What do you want to grow to in this year? We don't want to be stagnant. We want to always look to grow. So welcome again to Money Monday. We're going to run our intro and get ready for our lunchtime learning.
Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV, church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina and Clovis, special guests. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Here we go. We're so excited. This is Money Monday. I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant today, and we are sharing on the topic of learning about market volatility and compliance for businesses. So what do you need to do to stay in compliance? And what do you need to be thinking about? What do you need to consider? What may shift? What may change? What could likely bring you to have to pivot dramatically? And so it's the volatility of our marketplace, even in the line of business that we operate in. Hi, Ollie. We want to welcome everyone who's joining us on to this afternoon for our lunchtime learning. And so this is just an opportunity to gain additional information that you can glean from, that you can apply as you operate in this year, as you revisit some of your strategic plans, some of the growth plans that you have already considered to do in this year, just some of those enablements that you always want to be aware of in the back of your mind, so that you can make your decisions with wisdom, so that you have information available and you are applying it correctly. And so one of the things when we look at volatility, we're talking about what is happening in the marketplace. Whether you are investments or you're in stock, you're always weighing what you see in the marketplace that's happening. You are often using a variety of types of information. You're looking at historical volatility. Are there seasonal changes to your line of business, or what happens in our culture? Are there seasonal things that you can look for, historical observations that give you awareness about what may be coming, what is coming ahead? The scripture talks about no man go into war without weighing up the cost, meaning you don't go into a battle, or you go into build, or you go to lift up, or you go to expansion without thinking about those things that could happen, on those things that are outside of your influence. What's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in the landscape. And so with that, you look at historical volatility. Is there something that normally happens in this quarter of the year? Remember, this is what we consider to be tax season. So people are doing their taxes and people are receiving tax refund. Is this a time for you to take advantage of what's happening in the season? What makes a dramatic shift? How do you take advantage, or how do you protect against these volatile shifts in the marketplace? Also, there's the implied volatility. These are things that you can predict, that you can almost expect to happen because of your experience. Some of the experiences that we have in our businesses, we start to learn patterns. That is so important. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be an innovator, you have to look for patterns, indicators, key indicators that let you know when things are trailing behind, and then that helps you to push the momentum of where you're going, your growth plan, your strategy for this year helps you to push it and get some wind behind it so that it moves forward. Or maybe there are opportunities where you know you need to slow down. You're seeing that I'm moving too fast. A lot of times we see that when we're seeing our test results come back and some of the things don't have the quality level that we need. Sometimes we might need to, from observation, from historical reference, we might need to slow down and do more of a quality assessment. How do I refine this as I move along in my growth plan and my strategy plan for 2024? So again, looking at market volatility is not to say that you can prevent it. Some things are natural. It's just like the financial infrastructure that we operate through. There's ebbs and flows. There's gains and losses. And so that is just the nature of the business. And so, but you have to learn, how do I navigate what I'm doing in that? How do I navigate and move levers? How do I move money around? How do I operate in my business so that where there's an area that is really growing, how do I push on that? And then how do I mitigate risk in areas that is not doing so well? Then how do I enable them? How do I enable those areas of the marketplace that I'm operating in so that I can enable them so that that won't cause me significant loss? That's really what we're talking about. Observing the volatility of the area that you're operating in and what is the impacts that it can have to you. We talked about having a contingency plan before, right? And it's so important, even as you evaluate and create your contingency plan, part of that is looking at the marketplace volatility, but looking at it in a seasonal, more short-term view. You want to have a short-term span. What we talked about before, short-term goals and long-term goals. There's some things that we have planned out for years, but then there's also things that we plan out in quarters. And then there's also things that we plan out in months. And then there's things that we plan out in weeks. And so even as you look at the market volatility, there's some things that we can see from a seasonal perspective. There's things that we see like now, we're in a portion in the United States where we're going through the voting process every 4 years for the presidential. And so there is a cycle to some of the volatility of what happens in the marketplace. If you evaluate your business, there may be opportunities where you can push levers. So that meaning where you can push product or you can push services or you can push enablement that when the opportunity is there, you can take the most advantage of it. You want to be able to take the most advantage of the opportunities that are presented toward you. And so one of the things you can also do is mitigation. So along with taking advantage of the opportunities that come to you, you also want to be aware of what we consider threats to your business, right? The SWAT. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threat? That's a SWOT analysis. Even in your business, even in your ministry, what are your SWOT analysis? What are those things that you know are your strengths? What do you do very well? And so those are the things you want to capitalize on. Thank you, Bianca. Welcome. Happy Monday. You want to capitalize on the things that you do very well, your strengths. And then you want to evaluate, where am I weak? What are my weaknesses? What are those areas that I know I need to strengthen because of the market volatility, because of what I know could happen or what may already be happening in the line of business that I do? Sometimes we're having vendor shortages. Sometimes there is a short of supply, but huge demand. That means prices rise. When you have a short supply of availability, but high demand, they can change their prices because they're needed, whatever that resource is. If it is a resource of ability, maybe they provide a function for your business, and you're finding that it is closing in. There are less vendors that do that work. There are less providers that provide you with that service. You may want to be looking at, how do I do that in-house now? How do I evaluate or look at other partners who may be able to give me a good market pricing? Sometimes we're very guilty of this, and I know I raised my hand too. Sometimes because you operated with a certain vendor in a certain lane, you become comfortable. But oftentimes we may be missing an opportunity if there are others who do it the same quality level and can give us a leg or give us more gap in our pricing so that then you have more revenue, you have more income. You have to evaluate that well. I totally believe in loyalty. Amen. And so sometimes even in our loyalty, we can be loyal to a fault. We can be loyal to the inability of our ministry to grow. We can be loyal to a fault and an inability for our business to grow because we become so attached to individuals that we forget the mission. Yes, we never want to take our eyes off the mission. The mission is imperative. And so what we are doing is important, that we are evaluating our volatility in the marketplace, evaluating what is happening, the changes that are coming up, the changes that could also persuade you to have to pivot in your plan. We talked about that contingency plan. How are you marking your indicators? How are you marketing so that you are aware in your own review? I really want to encourage you, make sure you're reviewing your funds, reviewing your revenue, your intake, your expenses. As you review those, you can mark how well you're doing. You can see when you now need to pivot. There's some areas in some of our businesses. I'm at the point now, because I've been watching, I need to pivot. I need to make a move because the marketplace is changing and the landscape isn't changing. In order to ensure that there's solvency to go forward, then you have to do a shift. You have to do a shift, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with shifting because it enables you, one, to grow and expand. It enables you to think outside of the box. Some of those marketplace demands and volatility has forced other things to come about. Think about it. We look at some of the very old organizations, such as Blockbusters, and where we used to go and rent a VHS tape, and others that did that in that lane. But the marketplace started demanding more digitized viewing of media. And so if you're able to shift with the going of the volatility of the marketplace, of the lane, of the trade, of the field of study that you operate in, you're able to go with the flow. And then you're able to evolve. You're able to move and migrate in a way that you can still retain the business. You're just doing something different and new. Same focus, same mission. Yeah, same vision, just different methods. And that's what we want to get to when we're looking at the volatility and change that needs to happen. Think about it, even in ministry. For a period of time during the COVID event, many had volatility in the marketplace, meaning where we could fellowship together, we could not do so. So how do we provide an opportunity for those to hear spiritually, receive from the Lord, collaborate, have a joint experience with the Lord? We had to move and pivot to digitize our online forums. And so many were already advanced and already doing that, but there are a lot who were not aware that that's where the next evolution of the ability to share information was going, even for a Christian ministry, even for ministry. Because we'd always seen that is in many elements for the corporate world, for the corporate marketplace. But it also became an opportunity for the exchange of ministry. And we had to abound. We had to pivot. We had to grow. We had to have an evolution where that became a norm. And so now, even coming out of COVID, even though we have moved away from it at the significant level it was, and so we're able to now gather in person, we now have multiple exchanges of information, multiple exchanges of gathering, different ways to share information. And so that's what we're talking about. When you look at the marketplace volatility for your business, for your ministry, for your calling, for your innovation, what you want to do, think about what could change that will require you to also navigate a different way. Because the idea is that you marry, I love what Bishop would often say, you marry the vision, you date the method, meaning you are not moved. You don't compromise in what the mission and vision is. You don't compromise in what you've set out to do, what God has given you in your business. You know at the core, you know what your core is. You know what your calling is. You know what your assignment is. But then you look for opportunities to ensure that you do that assignment in excellence. And that requires sometimes methods have to be refined. Connections and partners have to be refined, even as you go to different levels. Because even when you go to another level, it may require, there's a different set of volatility there. There's a different set of rules and regulations that you have to deal with. I love what Ali is saying. I was going to open a small daycare in my area for the summer. So definitely, if you're going to do that for the summer, then you have to evaluate your marketplace, your landscape, on those that you will be servicing. Do a survey, do a questionnaire. Look at what's online for information to see what has been of value, what has been a benefit. I always tell others, do your research, do your homework, because I like to learn from others. If you can learn and glean from even others, not just their accomplishments, but oh my God, from areas that they had to correct or improve or renew or change, it is such a time saver to you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a person in ministry. The wise. When we listen to wise people, we glean and become wise. We glean that information. That's information applied. We gain wisdom so that we can rightly apply the right decision because we understand the information. When you have information, you need revelation to understand it and then to apply it. And so that is wonderful. We are praying for you, Ollie, that you have an opportunity to do this great venture. And so that doors are open for you. And so we just decreeing and declaring that, Ellie. We are so glad that there's an opportunity for each and every one of us to move out into our vision. And so we want to do our due diligence. The second part of today, as we've already talked about volatility, some of the things that you need to do, some of the things that you need to evaluate is corporate regulatory compliance. We don't want to forget that. It is so necessary, even in the corporate America, even in the marketplace, even if you're in ministry, if you're doing something international, there are rules and regulations that every organization has to file. Every organization has to follow. So there's some compliance requirements, even to the basic necessities of opening a business to ensure that you're doing what you should do as a business owner. Remember, it's not just doing things according to what you feel is necessary, but there's always a legality to what we do as we are operating an organization. There's a legality portion to that too. So just want to cover some basic, very basic regulatory compliance requirements, because this is the thing. If you don't follow these requirements, some of these dates, you cannot afford to miss them. They are very costly in your finance, fines. Sometimes they can even lead to the shuttering of your business. It can lead to the dissolution. It can lead to the closure of the business that you do. It can halt your ability to service, depending on what lane you're in. If you are in cosmetology or you're in food service, a lot of those businesses are heavily regulated, heavily monitored because they impact the health and welfare of the community. And so being so, you must ensure that you are following whatever rules and regulations have already been deemed necessary for your particular business. But I just want to cover very briefly some of the basic standard compliance regulatory requirements that you definitely want to meet to service in your business in excellence, because that's what we want to do. We want to keep our bar high. We don't want to go down. We want to keep our bar high, because if we keep our bar high, then the results always lead to success. The results will always lead to success. What is the medium? What is the middle? It is the top of the bottom. We want to be in excellence. We want to operate in such a capacity that people seek us out, because our level of quality is at the top of the bar. Our level of engagement is at the top of the bar. The way in which we operate and we facilitate is at the top of the bar. And so others will seek you out. Yes. They will seek your service out. How do people gain loyalty? Because they've seen, and those that come to them, the clients, they have experienced quality, and therefore they want to enjoy the service. So here are a few things you want to be mindful of, even just the basic, as you look at your regulatory and compliance concerning your business. One is record keeping. Please ensure that you are maintaining good record keeping. You have articles of incorporation, you have your bylaws, minutes from your directors meeting, your shareholders meeting, tax returns. This is so important. Again, we're in the tax season. And if you don't keep up with a lot of your information and you're not recording it as you should in the system of record, or you're not at least maintaining it perhaps in a hard copy form, then you could miss opportunity of gaining some credits, where you can get more revenue back in, where you can mitigate, where you're not paying as much out. And so we want to encourage you, tax returns and information that's going to help you as it relates to supporting your business from record keeping is very critical. It has to be given the right amount of attention, because I can tell you, trying to catch up at the first of the year around tax time, which is a lot of the small businesses do, is very difficult, because you've had 10, 12 months, you've had 12 months of business operation, which is moving very fast and very quickly. And so to be able to go back and try and reconcile all of that takes a lot of time. And so if we do a little bit every month, every month, maybe every quarter, if you do a little bit to maintain it, some of our businesses require that you're doing bookkeeping every day. It depends on the fluidity of what you're doing, how much, your volume, your demand. But make sure that you're doing it in such a fashion that you make it efficient and effective and accurate. The service of process. Have a plan for responding to the service process. How do you service others? Is there a need to look at legal services? Making sure you have one on hand. We've talked about before. How do I make sure I have the right insurance to ensure that I am covered? That's part of your due diligence and compliance, making sure that you're able to meet the needs of your participants, those who gain your service, your customers, your client, in the event that you have some issue in service. Those that receive, if you're a third party, this is very key. If you're a third party, meaning you're operating on behalf of a company and then they have clients, make sure you have the right contract between the two of you, that you know your liabilities, you know where the line is delineated, so that you can speak to that and you're sure that you're meeting the needs of your obligations as it relates to the contract. Also, corporate expansion or contractions, right? How do I relate in that with other businesses that I might operate with? Maybe you're not a company that operates with individuals, but you're a company that operates with other companies. So how do you expand your company and operating with them? What are some of those triggers of compliance obligations? Sometimes they might reach out to you. I have that when we have vendors that operate with us, even in the marketplace or in corporate America. We have to reach out to them sometimes because we have requirements that we have to report into various boards of various governmental organizations. And so they are part of our whole end-to-end process. So they are responsible for responding as well as we are. And so you have to look at that when you're operating your business. Are there others who are part of that end-to-end client experience that you need to ensure you know how they handle business? That they're able and ready to respond when you have compliance regulatory ask of you, and so that they can support you. And you want to make sure that that is even in your contract, that they are responsible for responding and assisting you when you have asked from regulatory bodies, because they are part of the end-to-end exchange of information or processes or procedures for your business. And so you want to make sure that they are ready and enabled to support. Also, if there are any entity changes, if you change an authorized party or shareholders or an administrator on your account, make sure that you're also changing that throughout your compliance documentation. You never want to have things so far out of sync, out of order, so that when you go to move to do something, when an opportunity presents itself, you can't move because your documentation have not been kept up to date. So it's so important that you do that. Sometimes people have gone to sell property, but they had the names of people who are no longer with the organization on the documentation. So they can't go any further. Sometimes you're trying to expand and maybe you want to do a business loan and maybe you want to operate or go into another lane, but you don't have the most current people who have authority. So you need to always make sure from a compliance and regulatory perspective for your business that you're ensuring the right people are still documented and listed on the documentation, so that when you pull them out and you do go to the regulatories, or you want to go in and even to a financial institution or to other particular partners, you have the right parties listed on your documentation. You also want to be very key and very aware of annual report filings. This is so key. A lot of times, depending on your business, depending on the marketplace, you may need to be filing annual reports, similar to a tax report. But there's sometimes state corporations where you have to file or renew. You have to make sure that you're in a compliance. You may have a business where you have to renew your certifications at a certain period of time. You want to make sure that you're doing these filings and that you stay on top of it, because there's nothing like having to close or stop servicing until you meet a requirement that is already a standard. If there is a standard, make sure you're logging that down. Log down the standard so that you can ensure that you're always meeting it. You're always ready. The next thing is also making sure your business license is up to date. I know a lot of times we'll go into business and sometimes we'll be operating, we'll be moving so quickly that we don't forget. In many instances, there is a renewal period. Some of them, depending on the state of Georgia, what kind of business you're in, it is every year you're renewing your business license. They want to know what you've done, how how you have acquired your finances for the particular year. That may be a way that they do calculation on how you pay your business taxes for that particular year. But you want to stay on top of that. Mark yourself, put it on your calendar. These are some of the standard things that we should and have to be evaluating every year so that we maintain compliance and stay within our regulatory confinements. Also want to make sure that you're reporting your taxes. If you want to be a legitimate business, you need to be reporting. Right? I know sometimes it can hinder you, because I've known others who have tried, well, I won't report. That way I can get it all. Yes, you don't report. They don't know you're legitimate. So when you do go and you want to do the next level, some big move, some investment, there's no record that you have been operating. There's not a legitimate record so that they can have a foundation of your brand, of your history. And so you want to establish those things up front so that you can have an integral brand that when you present yourself to go to the next level, you have everything you need. You have everything you need. And then also ensure that you're making the appropriate payments, right? So your tax reporting payments, make sure you do pay it. Make sure that you're doing that on your franchise, your income, your sales, any other uses of your business name or uses of your ministry name. Ensure that you operate at a value at a level of integrity that whenever you present yourself well, right? So we want to talk about it. How do I present myself well? Even during volatile market changes, even when things are shifting and the landscape is moving, how do I continue to maintain my cadence and my pace to move forward? We want to always talk about, how do I go forward from here? I know I've operated and had conversations with those who said, well, that business failed. That was an event. That's not you. That's not who you are, and that's not your brand. Failure is a moment in time. The failure comes about to make it stagnant is when you don't do anything next. You want to get up. You want to get up and go forward. You want to rise up. The Bible says, a righteous man falleth, but he gets back up. And so we want to encourage you to always get back up. Some of the things that we covered today, you may not be doing them today. You may have fallen short in some of these areas, but that's why we're honing in on it. That's why we're giving you the reminder. That's why we're giving you information, giving you the strength so that you can know this is something I need to do. And I'm going to encourage you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner of multiple businesses, as a pastor of a ministry, there is some administrative work that requires I buffet my flesh, because it is taxing. It can be tedious when you feel like I could be doing something else and not this, but it's necessary. There's some things that are just necessary, and you have to set your mind. You have to create the framework that these are the structural activities. This is the foundational activities that keep everything else running well. So you cannot mitigate these, or you cannot set them aside and dismiss them. These are things that are necessary. Sometimes you can gain help and delegate out, but you need to ensure that you are expecting them. You cannot expect what you don't inspect. And so you want to inspect, make sure everything is happening. It doesn't mean you have to be fingers to the keyboard or pen to the pencil. It doesn't mean your hand have to be doing everything, but you have to make sure everything gets done. And so we hope that you've gained a lot from today's topic as we talked about learning about marketplace volatility and compliance and regulatory standards for your business. I am assured that this is our year, big and better. We are leaping into our next. We are shifting our lever into another degree of excellence. So we encourage you today on Money Monday, go back and review the tape and share with others so that they can glean this information as well. Peace and blessings on today. This is Pastor Tawana Grant. God bless you.